Hi all, this video is going to be for chapter 3 lesson 6, which is about lines in the coordinate plane. Now in the previous video we did learn about the slopes of lines, and we also know that every line has its own equation. We did also learn this. Now in this lesson we are going to be learning about what are the different ways we could write the equations of line. So we have two of them, which is the slope intercept and point slope form. As we already know that every line has an equation. Every line has an equation. So we can write the equations of these lines in either slope intercept form or point slope form. Now, of course, you have to memorize these two formulas because in math there are certain things which you need to memorize. If you memorize them, then the application becomes easy. So whenever anyone asks slope intercept form, quickly it will click in your mind, okay, it's this formula. So the formula for slope intercept is y is equal to mx plus b, where what is this y is equal to mx plus b? Y will be the coordinate and x is the coordinate. All of you know now what are coordinates? The value of x and y. So x and y, we will be putting that here. And also you know m is the slope. So always the letter m represents slope. But what is b? B is the y-intercept. And what is y-intercept means? The value of y when x is equal to 0. Look at this graph here. This is what y-intercept is. So always x will be 0. The value of y when x is equal to 0 is called as the y-intercept, which means basically where the line touches the y-axis when x is 0. That's what the idea behind y-intercept is. So here, this is just an example which I have taken. Here the y-intercept is 4 because the value of x is 0 but the value of y is 4. So always your y-intercept will be in this form. X will always be 0 and there will be a value for y. Negative or positive or fractions, it doesn't matter. But it will be always 0, x will be 0 and y will be, there will be a value. Because that's where the line will touch the y axis when x is 0. So this is about y-intercept. Now let's look at the point slope form. Point slope form is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. There are no intercepts here. So what is this y and what is this y1? Y1 and x1 will be the coordinates given, similar to the y and x in the slope intercept form. They are the coordinates. And m, of course you know now, m is the slope, and this y and x is going to be there in the formula. You will learn later when we start doing the questions what do these represent, but for now y1 and x1 will be the coordinates, m will be the slope for point slope form, whereas for point slope intercept form, y and x are the coordinates, m is the slope, and b is going to be the y-intercept, which means what is the value of y when x is 0. In this figure here, you can also see x-intercept. So same like y-intercept, x-intercept means what is the value of x when y is 0. Not that we are going to use that here. We won't be using this here, but it's better to have extra knowledge. So whenever you need it, you can use it. So x-intercept means the value of x when y is 0, the opposite of y-intercept. Right, let's get started with these questions here. Okay, so we are going to write the equation of each line in the given form. They will ask you which form you have to write it in. So we will be writing according to that. This one, the horizontal line. Now, we did learn that in a coordinate plane, if there is a horizontal line looks like that. Always, that's a bit thicker. A horizontal line, what will be the slope of this line? If a line is horizontal, the slope of this line is always going to be 0. A horizontal line always has a slope of 0. Now here they said the horizontal line, which means what is the slope of this line going to be? The slope of this line is going to be 0. Through 3, 7 in point slope form. So point slope form means you have to of course recall the equation. So what is the equation for point slope form? It is y, let me write that down here. It's going to be y minus y1 equals m x minus x1, right? Now let's see how we can write this in the point slope form. So here they have given us 3 and 7, which is x1 and y1. We're just going to replace that here, that's all. The y stays the same, it stays the same, but y1 will be replaced with the values which are given. So y1 is 7, and from the question we came to know the slope is 0, and x is also going to remain the same, but x1 is going to be 3. Now, you know that if you have a 0 and you multiply any number with a 0, that's going to eventually result in a 0. So this is only done when the slope is a 0. You will not do this step which you are going to do now. If m is any other number, if the slope is for example 3, you will not do this. You will leave the equation as it is. Because it's a 0, we are going to do this. If you would multiply 0 with x, that would give you a 0. You multiply 0 with a 3, that's going to give you a 0. So which means in point slope form, the equation is going to be y minus 7 equals 0. This is only done because the slope is a 0. If the slope was any other number, you will leave, for example, say if you find the slope to be 3, your equation will be written in this form. You will not solve anything. You will leave your equation in this form. This is because it's 0, so we made it y minus 7 equals 0. All right, now let's go to the next question. It says the line with slope 8 over 5. So here they have given a slope of negative 8 over 5 through 1 and negative 5. So the value of x1 is 1 and y1 is negative 5. So what was the formula for point slope form? Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. So let's see. Let's write that here. Y minus y1 is negative 5. So we put that negative 5 inside parentheses so that we'll not get confused, because this negative is from the equation and this negative is from the number, equals negative 8 over 5, that is the slope m, then x minus x1 is 1. Now, you're not going to do anything here because they need it in point slope form. You will only multiply this two, which will give you a positive sign. So, in point slope form, your equation will be y plus 5 equals negative 8 over 5 x minus 1. That's it. You're not going to solve anything. You're not going to do anything. This is going to be a point slope form. Again, I repeat, here we solved because the slope was 0. Here we have a number for the slope, so we are not going to solve anything here. Right. Let's look at one more question. The line through half, negative 7, negative half, negative 7 over 2 and 214 in slope intercept form. First of all, write down what is the slope intercept form. The slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Now, first, before you do, analyze the question. We need the slope and we need the y-intercept. Is the slope given here? They have not given us the slope here. And have they given us the y-intercept? They have not given us anything, which means we have to solve this question each and every step. We need to solve it from the beginning. So to start with, first let's solve for the slope. This is going to be x1, y1, x2, y2. So by now you must be familiar with the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This might confuse you a bit because they are fractions, but then we have to do it through. So y2 is 14 minus 7 over 2, which is y1, minus minus because it's minus from the equation and 1 is minus from the formula, from the number, and then divided by x2 is 2 minus minus half. So minus minus would give us plus, minus minus would give us plus, which means now the equation we are going to, now the one we are going to solve is 14 plus 7 over 2 divided by 2 plus 1 over 2, or half. Now how much is 14 plus 7 over 2? That's going to be 14 7 over 2. So or we can either change this to a mixed number. So if you would change that to a mixed number, that is changing in the sense you will have to divide 7 by 2, that will give you a 3 and remainder of 1. So 7 over 2 is going to be 3, 1.5, which means 14 plus 3, 1.5 over 2 plus half is of course going to, we can do that mentally, 2.5. 2 plus half is 2.5. But this is going to be 17.5 divided by 2.5. Now we are going to divide these two. So how are I going to divide 17.5 by 2.5? Let me write it this way. Maybe that will make it easy for you. Right? We know we cannot divide fractions, so we have to do the other way around. But to do the other way around, first let's change this into mixed numbers. So 2 multiplied by 7 is 34. 34 plus 1 is 35 over 2. So keep it, change it, and first let me change this as well. The sign's the same unless you change them to mixed numbers. So 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is going to be 5 over 2. Now keep it, change it, and flip it. So this is going to be 2 multiplied by 35 is 70 divided by 10, which is going to give you a 7. So basically 17.5 divided by 2.5 is going to give you a 7, which means the slope for this equation is going to be 7. I know it's quite a lot of working. That's because they have given us in mixed numbers. It's good to get some challenging things, but so m is going to be equal to 7. All right, now the next step is using the slope, we are going to find out the y-intercept. So y-intercept, we have to replace all these numbers here. Now for that, you can choose any one equation, any one coordinate. You could use this coordinate or this one. I'm going to stick with this because I don't want to touch the fractions. So this becomes now x and y. If you want to be more challenging, definitely you can go ahead and take that. And so this is going to be y equals mx plus b. I'm going to replace that and find the value of b now. So y is 14 equals 7. We found the slope to be 7. 14 plus b, which means 14 equals 14 plus b. And then the value of b is of course going to be a 0. Right? We did all this to get the answer of 0 for the y-intercept. Okay, now that we have the slope, we have the y-intercept, we can write the equation in point slope-intercept form. So it's going to be y equal to 7x, because it's mx, plus 0. Now you know that we do not consider 0 to be there. So your equation in points slope-intercept form is going to be y is equal to 7x. That's all. I know it was a bit challenging because again I'm telling you that was because of these fractions here. Other than that, it would have been easy if they would have given us normal numbers. So yes, as I would always say, practice is what makes you perfect. So keep practicing, keep learning new things. That will be helpful for you later on. Right, so let's see this now. The line with x-intercept of -2 and y-intercept of -2. Now, before we started the lesson, I did explain you what is x-intercept and y-intercept. X-intercept means the value of x when y is 0, which means we can write the coordinate for this as -2, 0. And y-intercept is -1, which means the coordinate for this is going to be 0, -1. And they want you to write it in slope-intercept form, which is again y is equal to mx plus b. Right, now again we need the slope, right? And also we need the y-intercept. Already they have given us the y-intercept. So we are on safe side, we don't need to find the y-intercept here. So, but we need to find the slope. So to find the slope, m is going to be equal to, again, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it's going to be -1 minus 0 over 0 minus -2. So -1, -0 is of course going to be a -1, and negative will give you a positive, so 0 plus 2 is 2. So the slope is -1/2. All that you have to do is now write the equation. So if you would write the equation, it's going to be y is equal to m, which is the slope, which was negative half, x plus b, which is the y-intercept. Now y-intercept they gave us as negative 1. So this is going to be an equation. Y is equal to negative half x minus 1. That was easy because they have already given us the y-intercept. So we didn't have to find it. We only needed to find the slope and replace the slope with the equation. Let's move on to the next one. Now here they have asked you to graph each line. Now when you are going to graph each line, you know what's more important are the coordinates and the slope. So here they have given us this in point slope form, which means from the equation itself, derive the information which they have given. The slope is 3/4, and then we could take this as the value of x and y, because the slope intercept forms, the point slope form says y minus y1. So when it says y minus y1, so how did the negative change to positive? Because that's going to be two negatives. Two negatives will give you a positive, which means the value of y is going to be -3, and the value of x is also going to be -1. That's because the formula says y minus y1 equals x minus x1. Here both of them are positive, which means the value of x and y has to be negative. It has to be in this form. Only then you will get both of them as positives. So once you solve them, you will get y plus 3. So similar is the case here. If it was x minus 1, that would have given you x plus 3. So that's how they have written the equation, x plus 1. Sorry, why did I write here 3? So it's 1. So which means both the values of x and y are negative here. Okay, so let's start graphing. Now we have a pair of coordinates, that's -1 and -3, and then we have the slope. Now to use the slope, we have to of course use the formula again, which is rise over run. As we do not have a complete number, so we have to use rise over run here. First, graph these points, -1 and 3. Where is -1 and -3? That's here. From this point, you use the slope to find the next coordinate. So 3 rise means we go 3 up, so that's 1, 2, 3. Run is 4, which is going to the right. If it was negative, you will go to the left, but here it is positive, which means you will go to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So your next point is here. All what you need to do is just join the 2 points. Just join them. So here is your line. It's easy to draw lines, but then yes, you have to realize the information which they have given, then it becomes easy. Now to cross check, you can see here the slope is positive, which means you have to have a line coming from the right corner up to the left down. If it was a -1, that will be from the other side. This is how you graph it. So let's check one more. Here they have given us in the slope intercept form. Again, they have given us the slope. So slope is going to be -4/3. -4/3. And the coordinates, they have not given us, rather they have given us the y-intercept. So y-intercept means the value of x, the value of y when x is 0. So we can say it's like this. Y-intercept basically means this, right? The value of y when x is 0. So x is 0, the value of y is 2. So using this coordinate and these points, let's graph it. So you start with 0 and 2, that's here. So your first coordinate is here. Now this is a 4/3, which means a -4/3. So you can use this as a coming down. Okay. So we can -4/3 means, first let's write this, it's going to be a run. And this is of course going to be a rise, but because it's negative, it will come down. So from this point, we will come 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4. and then you will go 3 to the right. So your point is going to be here. Now, as you know, this is a negative slope. So negative slopes will be from the left corner to the right down. So it's going to be like this. This is going to be your graph for this particular equation. Hopefully you have understood that. Only the difference here was because of the negative sign. So we move still 3 to the left and then we come down. So that would give you a line like that. Now, the next one, determine whether the lines are parallel, intersect, or coincide. In the previous one of the lessons, we did take if the slopes were to be equal, that means the lines are parallel. And if the slopes, if you multiply the two slopes and you get an answer of -1, that means that they are perpendicular. But in this question, they have given us intersect or coincide. Coincide means the same line at the same time. So they're talking about basically the same line. So for being coinciding, the slopes must be the same and also the y-intercepts must be the same. When I do the question, I will explain you what these mean. First, let's find the slopes of these. So one equation is in this form and another one in this form. So from this easily we could find out that the slope is 1/5. But here we have to find the slope. So how are you going to find the slope? Rearrange this equation in the slope intercept form. How are you going to rearrange this in the slope intercept form? It's going to be -5y equals -x plus 0. Y is equal to be -x plus 0 over -5. So we could cancel these two fives. So which means here there is 1. Always remember, before x there is a coefficient of 1. So it's going to be 1/5 plus, now you know 0 divided by 5 will give you a 0. So we don't write that. Now what do you think is the slope here? The slope for this was 1/5 and the slope for this is also 1/5. So what can we derive from this idea? That if both the slopes are same, that means they're talking about basically the same line. So if slope is equal and the y-intercept is also equal, write 0 here, that means the lines coincide. So this is the first thing you need to learn. If the slopes are also equal and the y-intercept is also equal, that means the lines are coinciding. This is coincide, means basically it's the same line they're talking about. Okay, let's try the next question out. Here again, now how do you find out what kinds of lines are they? Totally depends on the slope and the y-intercept. This question says again 2y plus 2 equals x, which means we again have to change this to y is equal to mx plus b. So let's change that into the slope intercept form. It's going to be 2y equals x minus 2. Y is going to be equal to x minus 2 over 2. Already I told you that there is 1 here. So y is going to be equal to half x minus 1. Y minus 1, 2 divided by 2 would give us a 1. So here the slope is half. But how about this one here? Again, we need to work it out. So half x equals -1 plus y. Change it to y is equal to mx plus b. So half x plus 1 equals y, which means I can rewrite this in this form, half x plus 1. Again, the slopes are same. Right? The slopes are equal. So if the slopes are equal and the y-intercepts are equal, that means what does that mean? wait, here the slopes are equal, but the y-intercepts are different because there's positive one and negative one. So if the slopes are equal and the y-intercept are different, they are not equal, then that means they are parallel lines. Same like what we have done here. The slopes are equal, but the y-intercepts are not equal. So that means they are parallel, right? Yes, it's new, it takes time, it takes practice, right? Now check this out here. Now this is again in the point slope form. Is it y is equal to mx plus b? And this is in the point slope form, and this is in the slope intercept form. Don't worry, even still I get confused between these two words, right? So let's find the slope from here. So from here it's easy to find because this acts as the slope. So here the slope is negative 1 over 4, and here the slope is a 4 because the y is equal to mx plus b, so m means the slope. So here the slope is 4, and here the slope is negative 1 over 4. Slope is negative 1 over 4. Now you can see that the slopes are different. So basically, if the slopes are different means not equal, means they are intersecting lines. They just cross. That's all. So to determine whether it's parallel, it's intersecting or coinciding, these three are the important ones. Slope equal, y-intercept equal, that means they coincide. Slope is equal, y-intercept is not equal, they are parallel. If the slope itself is not equal, that means they are just intersecting lines. Easy. Hopefully that's easy. It takes practice. All right. Now this question is which most of the students ignore because so much of words, many students don't like to read so much of words. But then let's make it easy. Now here, this is an information. They have given you what's an aquifer, that's all. Aquifer is an underground storehouse of water. So underground, if you have a water place where you store water, that's called an aquifer. Okay, so the water is in tiny crevices and pockets in the rock or sand, but because aquifers underlay large areas of land, the amount of water in aquifer can be vast. So it's not little water, it's a huge amount of water. Wells and springs draw water from aquifers. Now the question starts from here. Two relatively small aquifers are the Rush Springs, RS, so they are the small aquifers, and the Arbuckle Simpson A's aquifer, both in Oklahoma. Suppose the starting on a certain day, okay, here. Suppose that starting on a certain day in 1985, 52 millions of water per day were taken from the RS aquifer and 8 million gallons of water. First, let me write down the information. So this I'm writing the information for the RS aquifer and this for the AS aquifer. First, they started on a certain day, which is 52 million gallons of water. So if they're taking water, that means it's going to be negative 52. This for the starting. And then for the RS aquifer, it is 8 million gallons of water per day. So per day, we don't know how many days. If the RS aquifer began with 4,500, so it began with 4,500 million gallons of water, and the other one AS, it's been started with 3,000 million gallons of water and no rain fell. Write a slope intercept equation for each aquifer. So we are going to write the slope intercept, that is y is equal to mx plus b. Find out how many days passed until both aquifers have the same amount of water. So for this particular equation, we don't know how many days, so we name the days as x. We are going to write the equation. You know the slope, what intercept starts with y equals. So we are going to write it like this. So the first equation is going to be y is equal to negative 52x plus 4,500. That's because they started with 4,500, so already there is 4,500 water. Then this one, y is equal to negative 8x plus 3,000. This is for RS and this is for AS. If you do remember, in one of the previous videos, I did teach you about simultaneous equations or the system of equations. We have to solve this in the same way. Well, if you want to learn further, if you want to have an idea, then you can, yes, watch this and learn something new. So let's change this first. How are you going to change this? You are going to bring the 52 to the other side. So that would become 52x plus y equals 4,500, because this would make us it would make it easy for us to solve these systems. Equals 3,000. We cannot simplify this unless any one of these values are negative. So to make it negative, this would be easier if I would multiply this with a negative 1, the whole equation, whole thing with a negative 1. If I would multiply that with a negative 1, that would give me plus, this is negative 8x, because that will totally change all the signs here. So negative 3,000. These are called systems of equations, which you will be learning very soon. So it's better you watch at least and have an idea. So to make any one of them, I need to cancel any one of them. That's called the cancelling method when you solve equations. If to change any one of them into a negative 1, I need to multiply the whole set of equation with a negative 1. So now I got one positive, one negative, I can cancel this. Now 52 minus 8 would give me 44. X equals 1,500. So I'm going to find the number of days, which is x. So x is going to be equal to 1,500 divided by 44. If you would divide 1,500 by 44, that would give you something roughly around 34.0 something. So they said round to the nearest day. So x is going to be equal to 34 days. So they would have the same amount of water on 34 days. Well, this is not included in your lessons because you have not learned it until now, but yes, you need to know how to write these systems of equation, because these are equations of lines. This is how you solve systems of equation, by elimination method, by cancelling them out. Just get an idea, that's all. So hopefully the remaining parts of the questions are easy and you have done it correct. So till we meet again, keep practicing.